Njiru, Wakili, at this point as we get to a heated debate in regards to matters politics in the country and generally what is also taking center stage, that is in regards to current affairs. Gentlemen, it's an honor to have you this morning, beautiful Monday morning, and we look forward to a great conversation. Honorable Didmus Barasa, let it be clear that I am not joining UDA. Let it be very clear.
Why have you put that disclaimer?
Because I think he's going to get excited. You know, anytime they see yellow,
yes,
the excitement is real.
Yes.
And they will probably push you to that direction, and it will appear like, I am holding brief for them, I am not.
I think they are saying that everybody is routinized
and
whatever it is. Is that presumption?
There is that presumption, I know, and so we need to be very careful, with them. Good to have you anyway.
Thank you very much.
And here we are. I guess we'll start with the papers. The papers carry some of the key things that I seek for us to discuss this morning, and therefore we might not delve deep into looking at them, but we can pick on some two others. First of all, let's at least pick some good news and celebrate Jocelyn Jepkosgei for making us proud. At least a word for her.
Yeah, that's a good, serious encouragement to our youths, and most importantly, the pride of Kenya.
Right.
And we highly congratulate her. And we say that we should not just end with congratulations peke yake. There should even be something much more for purposes of appreciation.
That's true.
Yes.
And we certainly hope such is the case. You are the legislators. Sometimes there's been this conversation on how we just get to celebrate our sportsmen and women. I guess we'll just celebrate now, and before we know it, we've forgotten everything about what they do to us in terms of putting us in the map. And so, are there plans? Are plans underway, or they've always been there for the longest of time in vain?
I think we should celebrate her, but the government is not serious about these people who are bringing this country a lot of glory. And when it comes to situations where things are not working, we say, where are our members of parliament? I want to make it clear here that we have enough regulations, enough laws that makes the government appreciate some of these gallant Kenyans who are earning us a lot of pride globally. I think they should benchmark in Uganda. You see what Yoweri Museveni did to the athletes that brought gold to Uganda as a country. But in Kenya here, when they arrive at the airport, they are only received by their relatives, and at most the Kenya Airports authorities are security guards manning the entrances. Something which must stop. We must come up with especially at this time where we were entrenching sports in our CBC curriculum. We need to make sporting a career. By making sporting a career, the government must be committed and put some incentives to this particular field that we want it to grow.
You know, Linda, when I hear these members of parliament every time they come to make their submissions and they call upon government, and they say for them their hands are clean and they have nothing to do, it's only the government's responsibility. Because the Mheshimiwa says, and I agree, there are some legislations, but their responsibility and functions do not end at legislation. There is also the question of oversight. If you feel that the government has not rewarded these people so nicely, your work is to oversight government. Why have you not implemented a particular legislation that we enacted? So much of the faults we are having in this country, much of the problems that we are having in this country, actually the person who has triggered them is parliament because of their ineptness. Because the entire parliament has been captured by the political class to an extent that they have lost their objectivity, they have lost the ability to realize their functions. And so every time, if it is Mheshimiwa Didmus, if he's inclining to the yellow, he wants to fault government for even things that he is supposed to have called government to order or even reminded. Ask him, how many times has he put that question or statement, sought for statement from the minister responsible, why they have not rewarded these individuals? Ask him to tell us.
I think it's very honest from Ndegwa Njiru to come here and tell you, ask him, as if he has done audit on how many questions I've asked the minister. And I want to tell him that my constitutional responsibility of oversighting government is not only limited in the floor of the house. Even here, when I'm here, I'm speaking to the government. I'm doing oversight everywhere. And As to whether Parliament has done enough is neither here nor there. The big question is the government of the day, led by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, should be able to take sporting seriously in this country. It is their responsibility. The fact that Parliament has not done A or B, it doesn't absolve that responsibility from government.
But it's a factor. We agree that it's a factor that if Parliament does not address such...
In terms of Parliament assisting government, appreciate or maybe appreciate sports in this country is not only limited to various statutes which we have passed, but also it extends to the approval of budget which we have done, which we have completely done, approved budget. We have given the government a lot of money. Even not just the money from taxpayers, there are other also stakeholders, including FIFA, who gives this country a lot of money to be able to develop the sporting activities.
Maybe this should be a debate, and Wakili, we're not trying to fire shots at members of Parliament, but reality is that based on what it is that they have told me while they're on set, they acknowledge that there's a huge problem in Parliament in terms of them pushing for some of these agendas.
Yes.
They say they are hugely infringed by their respective parties. They say that really it's hard for them to speak in Parliament because when you speak, you will be targeted. They say that hugely it is hard for them to castigate the government because a majority sit in this particular party that the government holds, and therefore really they just have to play or dance into the tune. It breaks my heart to imagine
Linda, there is no much deception there can be other than that. There cannot be much untruthfulness coming from our members of Parliament other than that. You've heard Didmus Mheshimiwa saying that the government of Uhuru Kenyatta should be able to reward these people. Why is he using the government of Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta? He's using that so as to show that now we have two systems. There is this government that does well, which is Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto, and there is that government that does bad, which is owned by Uhuru. So if the government doesn't reward our threatees, that is Uhuru's government that does wrongs. If the government goes and connect people with water, electricity, and all those things, that is the government of Uhuru and Ruto that does those good things. So what I'm saying it's a deception is because why I'm saying that deception is because our members of Parliament have been captured by the electioneering cycle, and for them what they are thinking much more is aligning themselves to the side that they think will make their bread buttered come 2022. So at the end of the day, they fail to actually do what is called representation. And the reason why political parties want to have majority of the members in Parliament is so that the agenda can be pushed forward, is so that the government can then be supported, its agendas can be supported. But when they come and say that when we speak we are going to be victimized, there is no government or political party that will victimize you for asking government to reward its heroes. So they have become ineptness. They are hiding behind that veil of saying, oh, you know what, if we raise issues we are going to be victimized. How many times have they been victimized for raising legitimate issues? What they have done is, we are simply having an inept Parliament, and I'm asking voters next time, come 2022, to do what is necessary to get individuals who fits the calling of a member of Parliament. 1, to represent, 2, to legislate, 3, to do oversight. We should not get a composition of the current members of Parliament who started politicking immediately they were elected. That is why they have completely lost their objective. They have become inept. They have become a burden on Kenyans.
Truth be told though, there is some level of victimization that plays out, and it's evident, and we've also seen that in as much as we say that, well, sometimes they're victimized, yes, but it's not because they speak of genuine matters. It is agreed, and it has been seen that there's been a proper purge on the Jubilee, and the purge evidently was all about people who are going against what it is that the government of Jubilee Party dictates.
We should look at it in two angles. One angle is that we have the role of Parliament collectively, where the simple majority will carry the day. But then we also have individual members of Parliament in terms of their performance, something which the voters from that particular electoral unit will be able to approve or disapprove in the next year. So I want also to challenge my good friend Njiru, if he thinks that the current parliament has not done well, the electoral unit where he comes from, he should declare his interest and
you sit in this parliament. Do you think his statement is misplaced?
It's completely misplaced. You seem to live in his own world, guided by some kind of utopia, which is not true.
In comparison to the previous parliament?
No. In terms of that no political party will punish a member, her member, for speaking the truth. You've seen what some members from ODM have been saying. They're appearing to be more garment than us from Jubilee. You saw the party that was in Jubilee, how we were de-whipped because of
politicking way before
not politicking, but standing with the issues that affect Mwananchi. We have come of age, we are mature enough to say, even though this is the government position, it doesn't augur well with the Mwananchi. It doesn't.
Irungu Kangata standing, to articulate the issues that he raised, as many would have argued, there were better ways of doing that. We understand the aspect of decorum, we understand the aspect of sobriety, and again, proceeding to rallies to present some of these issues as opposed to the House or the floor of the House. Like you say, I agree that you're not limited to the House to address some of these issues, but I mean, decorum.
Members of Parliament, we do our things on the basis of the law.
Yes.
Which law prescribes that if you have something against the government, you should not do it in a rally, or should not do it in this particular forum? There is no kind of a law. We do not have a particular way of doing. The way that we follow to do things must be prescribed in law. So there is nothing wrong with the Rungu Kangata issuing up the letter to the president through whichever means. But
then again, there's equally nothing wrong if the Jubilee Party kind of feels like this was a different approach, this was a wrong approach, because again, within the law, there's nowhere they are handcuffed in terms of doing this, and therefore it was okay for them to proceed. We have
got everything that's wrong with the Jubilee government because they must follow the prescribed policies of disciplining a member. What are the sections of a party's constitution that
and
this particular
member has contravened?
We have not contravened any of those particular sections. This was just purely politics to pave way for ODM orphans to be able to found a safe haven in the Jubilee Party.
But today, how much have they so far?
Today, unless you don't live in this country, very key departmental committees that works hand in hand with the government in drafting policies, economic policies that will take this country either forward or backwards, are in the hands of ODM legislators.
Wakili.
Yes. It's very interesting when I listen to these Jubilee members. When they went to Kasarani in 2016 and they decided to fold up their parties, they had not focused on the whole aspects of democracy and the whole concept of the stakes of the political parties in a democracy and the roles that they play. So they told us, you get into Jubilee. Once you get into Jubilee, Jubilee will have the majority of the members in parliament, and so government will have the majority of members and they'll be able to push their agenda. But that did not mean that the party did not have the responsibility of disciplining rogue members of parliament. If you look at the intention and the motive and the mischief that Kangata's letter was supposed to achieve, it was meant to achieve the end results of defeating what the Kenyans had come out to do. Yeah. The question of the BBI. The question of the BBI, Linda, is a serious thorn, especially in Mount Kenya region. Why? Because it was bringing the question of equitable distribution, equitable and equal distribution of one, representation, two, resources. So Kangata was used by his underhands, the ones who are anti-BBI, to write those letters. Right. And because government has intelligence, and because the political party has its own intelligence, they were able to understand the origin of such kind of Kangata's mischief. And so if the party cracks its whip against such kind of a rogue member of parliament, then you cannot say you're being victimized whatsoever. For all honesty and purpose. You cannot say that you're being victimized when the party cracks the whip. I'm asking myself, when Mheshimiwa says that the government has been hijacked by the ODM orphans, what does he exactly mean? When he say that he is a Jubilee member and is a member of parliament, if he feels the Jubilee government which he believed in as at then, before he was captured by the UDA, why hasn't he tendered his resignation so that he can be able to distinguish himself as a stout, principled, and well-organized member of parliament? Why is it so hard for him to resign from the government that he does not believe in today? You know, that is the kind of the treacherous I'm speaking about, is the kind of the political deception that UDA has captured the country in.
Right.
For example, when you ask them the kind of the policies they are propagating, where they go and see that President Uhuru Kenyatta has built a road, they associate themselves with that road and they say, you see what government has done? This is Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
Right.
But when they see that there is a drought somewhere in Northeastern, they say, oh, you see, the government of Uhuru Kenyatta is allowing guys to die. You know, that is the kind of the political deception that Kenyans must be able to get themselves away from.
Honorable Didmus, it is hypocritical, and let's face that. Why is it that we have not seen the DP exiting the stage? We have not seen members of parliament of, allied to the Deputy President or Tanga side not exiting the stage? Is it so hard to be out in the cold, or how soon do we expect to see this?
One, before I come to that statement, my good friend Njiru has made a very serious statement which is completely untrue, which misleads the public, and I'm wondering whether he left his knowledge of law outside this studio when he came here or not. He has said that IEBC was able to address the issues of disparities in representation in terms of creating more constituencies in central Kenya. And I want to draw the lawyer to Article 89 of the Constitution.
Right.
Article 89 of the Constitution spells out the role of IEBC in boundary delimitation after every 8 years. Now, we need to ask ourselves a question. IEBC did not have a quorum to do boundaries delimitation. Whose fault is that? Is it BBI or not? So the role of IEBC in the delimitation of boundaries, creating more constituencies, is well spelled out. That IEBC should review the boundaries after every 8 years, and where the population has gone beyond the limit set by the Constitution, it will automatically become an extra constituency. So we should not come here and we leave our knowledge of law outside the studio when we are coming here. I think that is not the right thing to do. The second thing about counties getting more money, our current constitution says counties should get a minimum 15%. When our constitution says minimum 15%, it means it can even be 100%. It can even be 80%. So the demagogues who are coming here and claiming that IEBC was to address some of these issues is not true. As to whether William Ruto should resign from government or not, that's a question for him. But if I agree with him by not resigning, because Kenyans have no problem with him resigning. They're the ones who voted for him. He was never appointed by anybody. He was elected by Kenyans together with the horrible Uhuru Kenyatta. When it comes to members of parliament resigning from government, which government? Which member of parliament belongs to a government? We belong to an arm of government called the legislature. And our roles with that one of the executive are completely separate. When the executive is failing, that has nothing to do with us. Us as members of parliament, individual as we are, from individual constituencies, with me particularly, I think I have done exemplary very well in my constituency. So I will be subjecting myself for scrutiny and the re-election in next year. So when you say that members of parliament who are complaining about the Jubilee government should resign from government, which government? There's no MP.
But we understand, again, what the Constitution dictates. In as much as you're independent bodies, then you should work complementing each other. That's actually what the Constitution says. But we have not seen that. And therefore, there needs to be, probably eyes on who's going wrong. And if you feel like it's a distaste, like Mheshimiwa would rightfully put it, the most noble thing to do.
We have different interests. We represent different constituencies with different interests. And when we are on the floor of the House, we pull in different directions. Every member of parliament pulls towards his constituency. When we are scrutinizing government budget policy statements, every member of parliament tries to see what is it that is coming up in his constituency. So the issues of National Assembly, we pull together in the interest of the country, specifically when we have this national piece of legislation that is going to affect everybody, like the NHIF bill, we all pulled in the same direction. But when other bill comes up for the debate and voting on the floor of the House, we vote.
But you've also had this.
Our people whom we represent.
Mahesh, we have also had, I don't know whether they're claims or is a reality, based on facts and figures, that the Augusta House, the current Augusta House, is the worst performing, in relation to what has happened previously. And pundits have argued that at least 70% of the representation will not be coming back, when it comes to 2022.
I don't know who did that survey. I have not gone through it because I'm keen not to discuss.
So you can confidently say that the House has performed?
I cannot say the House has performed. The House ceased to operate from the time we had a handshake. The House
and that's the major problem we have. Yes. And that is why we wanted to amend the Constitution.
The House never worked from that time. Those who are supposed to put the government on toes went to bed with the government. Those are parliamentary watchdog committees that are supposed to be scrutinizing how the government is doing its high investments in terms of auditing the public expenditure through a public accounts committee. These various committees, they're beginning to think that we should protect, quote in quotes, our government, because now they are working in a collaboration together. Even when we have ills like the COVID-19 millionaires, you don't see anybody being prosecuted. And that's why I agree with you that the Parliament of Kenya, ceased to operate the day Raila Amolo Odinga engaged in a handshake.
Linda,
and so that means Kenyans are paying.
There cannot be much more deception than there is this morning before you. The question of boundary delimitation and Article 89 could not have solved the question of representation. Remember, when we went for the new constitution in 2010, we had 210 constituencies. And we never thought how those 210 constituencies were created. They were majorly created as a result of political rewards by the kind of regime that was in existence at that particular time. There was no particular formula of raising those 210 constituencies. But when we did our new constitution, we said we need to have a clear and concrete procedure and formula of creating constituencies. And that is when we came with the question of population quota. When the Legalized Commission came in 2011 to add the 80 constituencies, they were supposed to follow the formula prescribed by the Constitution of the population quota in the creation of the new constituencies. So what happened is, there were those 210 constituencies which were actually supposed to have been abolished, but the Commission protected them.
Right.
They said we are going to retain these constituencies as they are, and that's why today we have Lamu East and Lamu West. That's why today in Turkana we have Kushi constituencies, Kubish constituencies with 46,000 population. And we have Ruiru with 317 members of the population. So we said we are going to protect them because we never wanted to differentiate the country. But when we now started igniting the debate of saying, okay, if you have a constituency that is less than population quota, then you need to surrender that constituencies. None of them is ready to surrender it. If you ask those guys who are retaining a constituency, which they do not actually deserve to be retaining, to surrender to those guys who actually need those constituencies, we always have political turmoils. And that's why we said, now, let us get a formula of making sure that whoever has retains, and those who do not have are actually given to what they deserve. And then we propose to add the 70 constituencies in the BBI. What did we see? We saw those guys who are not ready to relinquish what they do not need to those who needs, still opposing the proposal. So we get ourselves in a situation whereby we continue to vote, and their vote will not yield the intended results. For example, the members of Ruiru constituency will go for voting in 2022.
Yes, the numbers are
yes, they will cast their votes. There are those guys in Ruiru constituency who are over and above the population quota of 165,000 people who will still cast a vote for a member of parliament. The question would then be, if I cast my vote in Ruiru, and I have cast my vote and it is beyond the population quota of 165, is my vote yielding the intended result of representation?
No.
Because one particular element or function of a member of parliament is representation. And therefore, if my vote is not yielding the intended results, why am I voting? The other issue is the issue of ODM and in parliament and their role. I want to dissuade members of parliament and to disabuse them that we have opposition in parliament. Currently, we don't have official oppositions. We have the majority and the minority. And the majority and minority under Article 95 have three functions. As the majority legislate, the minority are legislating. As the majority oversight, the minority are oversighting. As the minority represent, the majority are also representing. There is no clear-cut distinction between the majority and the minority. And the law does not say that the minority are the ones who are supposed to oversight government.
Right.
The majority are the ones who are supposed to oppose government. So the role of the minority and the minority are intertwined. There is no clear distinction. And that's why you are saying in the BBI, let us have a clear distinction of how parliament will be read. Let us have the official opposition and let us have those guys in government. That is why today Mheshimiwa Didmus Otieno, being a Jubilee member, is then saying, okay, my role was taken by ODM. Who said your role was taken by ODM? ODM has the constitutional right of legislating just as much as Jubilee has. It has the constitutional role of oversight and that of representation just as much as those guys in Jubilee have. So we wanted to do the architecture and the infrastructure of the constitution so that we could have clear-cut responsibilities and roles in parliament. So nobody has taken the role of Didmus Otieno. Nobody has taken the role of them, Mheshimiwa. He still has the role of oversight. How much and how good has he done it?
Right, Honorable Didmus, I think we then come to the aspect of what you raise in terms of the numbers, and this is a story that has been captured in the papers in regards to the exercise that IEBC begins today, voter registration, as they seek to top up to the list or the number of registered voters that we have in the country. They seek to add about 6 million, and we definitely expect that Ruiru constituency will have more registered voters. What does this mean in terms of the aspect of representation that raises?
I want to agree with you that Ruiru constituency is one of the densely populated constituencies we have in this country, and Mwea and the rest. I just want to educate my good friend here a little bit. That money should follow people. Yes, money should follow people. And to make sure that the people of Ruiru are comfortable, we don't have to split the constituency. What we need to do is to double the allocation that the government sends to other constituencies. We have a proposed amendment bill by Dr. Eseli Simiyu, amending the CDF CDF Amendments Bill of 2019, where Eseli Simiyu is trying to change the cash sharing formula, which will address the issues of population. In terms of if a constituency with 20,000 people is getting 100 million, then the one for about 120,000 people should get at least double or 3 times. You don't have to change the constitution through PBI to achieve this kind of thing. You just need to amend the revenue sharing formula to be able to address them. The second thing is that I want to tell my friend that the role of minority party is not outlined in the constitution per se, but is within our standing orders. In our standing orders are explicit on the role of the minority party. For example, we have got 2 watchdog committees, Public Investment Committee and Public Accounts Committee. Right. Our standing orders recognizes the fact that a member of parliament who is coming from the majority party that has formed government may not be able to oversight government properly as such. So the leadership of these positions is in the hands of minority parties, even though in terms of quorum they are the minorities. But the standing orders discourages the leadership of these committees to be in the hands of members of parliament from the majority party. So even though there is no mention of an opposition party, but the role of the minority party is to be able to scrutinize every bill that the government brings on the floor of the House. That's a role which they no longer play. They no longer play because, for example, the Committee on Planning, Finance and Economic Planning, which is very critical in terms of realigning government policies to all the fiscal plans or to be able to achieve the bigger vision of the government. Like now the Big Four agenda is in the hands of Honorable Gladys Wanga. Now, if you have a struggle to seize power between the minority party and the majority party, then the chances of the minority party sabotaging the government for their own benefits are very high.
But if the minority has comfortably taken your space, and then you people appear to be the opposition within, why then don't you do what it is that the minority should have done?
Let me give you a scenario.
Yes.
We are going to elections next year. ODM will be working so hard to seize power from Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Yeah.
Jubilee Party, because it's a party, Jubilee as a party, we also want to retain power. So when you have your competitor being at the helm of the very important committee that is key in ensuring that the promise you gave Kenyans is implemented, is chaired by a member of parliament from the rival party, he will sabotage you in within. You know, it only becomes a bit different because now we are saying that okay, the Jubilee Party in the next general election is going to form a coalition with the ODM, that they're going to work together. Then it makes sense that way that the two parties have agreed to work together to move forward. And I think Njiru, you should also try to be a gentleman. Agree with me if I'm talking facts. Don't just disagree with him because you want to suit where you are standing.
I am agreeing with you. I am agreeing with you.
Dishonesty.
Okay.
You cannot have a member of parliament from your rival party to chair a crucial committee that will enable you either fulfill your election pledges or not fulfill them.
Democracy is progressive, and therefore,
to the extent that the minority are chairing very crucial committees, I agree, and I agree with him. But let's ask ourselves what informed that process. What informed that process is that the members of Jubilee became saboteurs. There were even ministers who were in government who were supporting the performance of government. Why? Because they had been briefed by one function of government that sits at Karen to make sure that they sabotage the government and make sure that it doesn't perform. So, as a genuine and ingenious person, what was government supposed to do? Government was supposed to now to create a coalition of the willing. And that's why Gladys Wanga became a chair of that committee. But are there results? Yes. There are results in the sense that when she became the chair, all those guys, the musicians and the artists who had problems with their skiza tunes, they started getting their benefits. Was the government able, was the Jubilee arm of members of parliament able to deliver at that particular time? No. So we are then seeing a situation whereby there are deliverables when the government cross over and does a coalition of the willing with the minority, because the majority were actually sabotaging their government. They have said that the work of minority is to scrutinize the bills. Yes, it is. That's their function. But look at the enactment of the security bill. Who are pushing that? It was government. The minority were up in arms, saying this law is draconian. Mheshimiwa Didmus was in parliament shouting at those
Didmus Barasa.
By the way, Linda, with all due respect, I think my good friend either is ignorant, because the security laws were passed in the last parliament. I was not part of the last parliament. I came to parliament in 2017. So what you should do is that you should first get the facts.
I'm connecting him with perpetuity of government
properly before you come here.
The perpetuity of government.
Let's allow him to make his point.
It was the Jubilee government that was in power at then, and it is in power up to date, and therefore there is perpetuity for those who serve in the Jubilee government. Pardon him that was not in parliament then. But there was a parliament for minority and the majority. Government pushed that law. It was enacted when there were hue and cries from the minority. So what we are simply saying is, in the next election, we need candid and honest members of parliament, those who are going to stick to the creed to which they believe in. If you have been elected with the Jubilee Party, you must stick to the policies and the manifesto of that party. If you feel that you cannot, then you go and form your own party and or go and vie as an independent. But you cannot be in government and you're not in government.
There you go. All right.
If the next parliament would have members of parliament who thinks the way Mr. Njiru is thinking, this country will go to the drains.
Why do you say so?
I say so because members of parliament are supposed to have their independent mind. They should be able to bisect, scrutinize the activities of government to suit the interests of the people who have put them in that particular position. We have had situations where the Jubilee government comes up with a party position that has not been properly arrived at. Secretary General wakes up in one morning and announces that we are not going to feel like candidate in this particular seat because this seat belongs to ODM, and in the spirit of the handshake, we are not going to compete with them. Handshake was never part of the Jubilee Party's manifesto. I had the luxury of moving around this country, soliciting for votes for Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and we all agreed that Jubilee Party is going to be run on party structures, and that if there will be any bill that will be coming up for debate in the National Assembly, we will have a party's parliamentary group meeting to be able to discuss so that we can be able to advance the interest from our constituencies to improve that particular bill. From the time I was elected, we only had 2 parliamentary group meetings in the State House. And when we went there, we were lectured with no right of a reply that this is how things are going to do. So if you will have a member of parliament, with thinking like that of Njiru, the naysayers,
but the Constitution does not constrain that in any way.
Will say,
you suppose we should incorporate a law that speaks of
members.
The law is there.
The law is there in terms of
members of parliament. It represents their people in the different interest groups.
Yes.
They belong, yes. They
My interest, for example, my interest as a member of parliament for Kimilili constituency can be different from member of parliament for Kikuyu constituency. And so they can also be different from Honorable David Wole Sangok.
Yes.
Because we represent different constituencies with different needs. So if we are going to say that we are going just to agree with the government, at times when the government can, some individual decisions in government can be construed to mean this is the position of government. Those are, that is especially if they have not been arrived at through a proper process. When did you last report that Jubilee have had their parliamentary group meeting in State House?
Evidently that has not been there.
This is the kind of the deception I'm talking about. And this is the current mantra, the current manifesto that is being operationalized to make sure that they discredit government, that people hate the government, that the people who voted for Uhuru and Ruto actually ends up hating Uhuru and loving Ruto much more, without realizing that these guys are CMS twins, that the mistakes that Uhuru Kenyatta has done will still be attributed to William Ruto. Yeah. But now William Ruto has retreated to Karen and decided now to only associate with the good parts of government and castigate where government has failed. You see, if Mheshimiwa feels that the political party has not been run in the right way, if he feels that there are some organs of the political party that have actually taken steps that are not actually party-oriented or party-driven, there is what is called political parties tribunal. That tribunal is meant to sort out political parties' disputes. Yeah. For example, if you feel that a member of your party has been chased away or has been disciplined or whipped unjustifiably, there is a political parties tribunal. How many matters has he presented before it? Yeah. If he's not comfortable before the political party tribunal, he could even approach the High Court and challenge those processes. But they have now taken it as a measure for trying to discredit government. For example, you'll hear them saying repeatedly that people in Nyamakema were actually chased away, they were actually frustrated and victimized by government. They are the some persons who are supposed to make sure that counterfeit goods do not come to Kenya. They are supposed to put questions to those guys who are responsible for those state organs that mans the infiltration of counterfeit goods. But how many times have they done that? Because they have actually been captured, they have been whipped to make sure that they only think that Karen is the only best place that can deliver this country.
All right.
Yes. Njiru is a very interesting character, but the difference between him and me is that me, I'm elected, but him is looking for an appointment from this same Jubilee government.
No. I have good work that I'm doing. I have much more work than I need.
I say so because
I have much more work than I did as a lawyer. I am happy I'm able to fend for my family. So I'm not looking for any appointment.
So allow me to finish.
I cannot bootlick.
Then you can reissue a rejoinder.
Yeah, but you have to distinguish between me and a bootlicker.
Let me finish.
And we know where the bootlickers
Let me finish saying.
All right.
You know, these are the same people who have been making a lot of noise at home. William Ruto, Vicky office, no authority, it's a clerk in the Jubilee government, or William Ruto's roles have been taken over by Matiang'i. So when it comes to now, at that level where the government is not doing very well, now they say they are Siemens twins. But when it comes to the government doing very well, they are saying Uhuru has done more. During the handshake with Raila Odinga than when he was with William Ruto. So I think we should also be honest for once.
So then who's going to ask these hard questions for the sake of
when you say that the powers were taken away from the deputy president and they only left for him a big office, you should also come out to say that the current mess we have in this government, William Ruto is not involved. It's about the president and his handshake partners.
Yeah, but what Mweshimwa is not telling you is that since the guy retreated to Karen, corruption has reduced. Since the guy retreated to Karen, theft in government resources has reduced.
Is it so?
And because it has reduced, yes.
Is it so?
Yes.
When did we have? When did we lose this KEMSA fund?
The index has reduced.
No, I'm asking.
You've started convicting those guys. Government has started convicting those guys.
Wakili, you.
When did we lose billions from KEMSA? Listen, by the way, did you see the report? Are you aware that we have billions of shillings stuffed in foreign countries by the first family?
I don't have those facts. The facts you can.
The facts are figures, but you see that's a problem.
We should be very honest.
Do you know why corruption has retreated? Do you know why I'm saying it has reduced? Because you have started convicting people who have actually been charged.
We've only seen one conviction.
The other day there was a conviction of somebody who stole money and
he was still working because he was able to pay bail himself out.
Last week, court convicted a guy who was told, I think it was called Irungo or something. He was told to pay 780 million. Do you know why those convictions are capable of being done at the moment?
Because the DP is not there?
No, because we are not politicizing them.
All right.
Because what the DP's regime is doing is that whenever somebody has been arrested for corruption, they retreat and say, oh, you are being victimized because you're associating with the DP. That's why I'm saying when he retreated to Karen, at least we're able to convict individuals.
But why then should we be paying him if he retreated to Karen? Then there's literally nothing.
The guy has refused to resign. The guy has refused to take the noble thing and resign from government. So he's plundering public resources.
Linda,
yes.
As a member of parliament, I have a civic duty to tell the public
the truth.
I've swore the constitution to be saying the truth, and we cannot come here on national television and begin to lie to Kenyans. KEMSA scandal happened after the handshake.
But even the
stories let me finish first, my friend. The story we are hearing about the first family stuffing billions of shillings in offshore accounts is coming after the handshake. And we must be very honest as a people. That is the only heritage that we have. I am a heir of a proud heritage. I cannot come here and lie to the nation. I will say the truth the way it is. Truth be told, and we are coming to understand that the reason why we were involved in a handshake, we brought on board Raila Odinga, was to be able to silence him and tie his mouth so that we can continue to steal deeper from the public coffers so that it doesn't make noise. This is what's coming out to manifest. Right? So to come here and saying that from the time that the handshake happened, corruption has gone down, that is not true, and that is misleading, that is laughable. And it only points out how the type of leaders we're having in this country. Because when you are a lawyer, you are a leader. You don't have to be a member of parliament to be a leader, and you must tell the country the truth.
Would you substantiate that argument?
I can substantiate it. And that proves the ineptness of the members of parliament that we have. if we are to wait for somebody to disclose the offshore accounts, yet Parliament is mandated to do oversight, who has failed? Isn't it Parliament? Why do you have to wait for somebody else to come and tell you there are some offshore accounts in somewhere, in some countries? It's simply because people they have lost what they were called up to do. They have lost the objection, the objective. They have lost the reason why they were elected. If I were a member of Parliament, I would have been the first person to investigate why do we have money leaving the country? Because the money cannot leave the country without traces. So to me, I think Kenyans must prepare themselves and detach themselves from the current existing crop of leadership, so that then we are able to get people who are patriotic enough to be able to put to question such kind of scrutinies. And mark you, as much as you remember about KEMSA, thou shalt not forget about the Kimorel. Thou shalt not forget about the Arol Dam. Thou shalt not forget that even KPA land was stolen. Thou shalt not forget that KPLC has been plundered. Then we need to ask ourselves, when Jubilee government was constituted, and because it is a coalition government that is not so much pronounced in law, but it is, when Uhuru Kenyatta was told, come with your guys, he brought his guys. When William Ruto was told, bring your guys, he brought his guys. And they were all fixed in certain places. If you go and scrutinize and find that, hey, KPLC was under the Ministry of Energy, this is what happened, then you need to ask yourself, are there some guys who came to government and they had high propensity and appetite of stealing and plundering public resources? If you go to issues of Kimorel, we know which function of Jubilee was actually leading that function. So you need to ask yourself, are there some guys with high propensity of stealing?
But legally speaking, why are we not getting to the bottom of all this?
We can't get to it, Linda. Anytime we make an attempt, government makes an attempt to do it, it's politicized. The other day, Mheshimiwa Gachagua was arrested. He said, oh, you know what? I'm being arrested because I support William Ruto. That is hogwash.
But as a legal mind, you understand the importance of getting watertight, cases and proper evidence for that matter. If there's not been evidence to incriminate these individuals, how can we sit here and castigate
the
them?
only place where you can test the veracity of evidence and the credibility of that evidence is in court.
Yeah.
Why are they not giving court an opportunity to prove itself? Were they not giving the DPP in those cases that he so wishes to prosecute to its conclusion, but they are subsuming it in politics?
Linda, one is that failure by Parliament to investigate money laundering, if at all that is our role, should not legitimize money laundering by anybody for whatever reasons. The second thing is that he has kept on mentioning Aroa and Kamarol. He has kept on, of course, he has omitted the issues to do with Ruaraka land, the mobile clinics containers that were purchased by somebody.
And some of these things happened even before the handshake.
And I have not also mentioned the Rwai land.
The problem with Njiru, he doesn't want to listen.
I'm listening.
There's a problem.
I'll take my call.
There is no single day that William Ruto has told the judiciary not to prosecute people who steal money from government. There is no single day. The role of appointing judges and the magistrates to hear this corruption case is not a role that is under the office of the Deputy President. That is under the judiciary. The role of determining whether corruption cases should be completed much more faster is not the role of William Ruto or for us in Tanga. It is the role of government. It's the role of the judiciary, which have no role to do with that. So when he keeps on mentioning that we were blocking, DPP, my friend, from where I sit, the office of the Director of Public Prosecution is not annexed in Karen in the office of the Deputy President.
We close this debate.
It's an independent office and time for people appearing on national television with a skewed narrative to suit where they sit, I think should come of age. Wajinga wameisha Kenya. Every Kenyan understands that what is happening in this country.
Right. And Rasji Mbugwa Tafari is asking Wakili Ndegwa, tell us about the Pandora Papers. Kumbe the 2 billion we lose every day is kept in offshore accounts. All right, another one goes to
Please
you.
tell him.
Yes. And now let me read also this one. Barry Odhiambo says, Linda, these people sound funny when they claim that those that were supposed to put government check joined the government. Who took oath to be in opposition forever? And must the government be pushed to deliver services to Kenyans? I think that one goes to you.
Yes, constitutional provisions that establishes the office of the minority party recognizes the fact of checks and balances, and that the government must be pushed through checks and balances. The spirit of separation of power between the executive, National Assembly, and the judiciary was also anchored with the doctrine of checks and balances pushing the government to deliver.
Okay.
You cannot have your cake and eat it.
The responsibility of checks and balances, as much as I agree, does exist. It's not a responsibility for the
No, your question was about the Pandora Papers. You are answering my question. The guy was very clear. Your question was the Pandora Papers. Answer your question. Don't answer mine.
As well.
Begin with yours first before you come to mine.
I'm starting on a point of information.
But he has a valid point even before he finishes.
But you know, basic common sense
dictates that he answers his question.
You answer your question before you attempt to answer the one.
As I come to answer your question,
yes.
May I have the opportunity to inform Mheshimiwa that checks and balances dictates that it's the legislature collectively that has to do checks and balances, and the legislature does checks and balances through all the oversight aspects and the legislation and the representation. So may you be informed then that you cannot then disconnect yourself from the oaths that government is doing. When we shall throw stones to that person who has not sinned, we shall throw to you people who claim not being government. Now the question of the offshore, I have no authentic information or facts to prove or disapprove the existence of the same. And a person from where I sit, I can only argue if a conviction has been made or an arrest has been made or facts have been tabled before us. The only person who has the capacity to scrutinize this is Mheshimiwa through the offshore. And I want to probably believe that as much as he put his case forward about these offshores, tomorrow when Parliament resumes, it will be the first thing that he's going to seek for clarification. So that then we can know that he's genuine, that he's candid enough with the truth, and that he wants to face the truth for whatever purposes that it may cost. So that then we are able, if you ask me to check about the issues of offshore, how do I do it? He has the resources, he has the infrastructure as a member of parliament.
But in the same breath, you're castigating the likes of those ones who are headed to Karen for the same reasons, in terms of the aspect of corruption.
You know, those ones we have the facts. You know, that's when you have the facts, Linda.
Okay.
When Gachagua was when this guy who plundered resources from the county government of Nyeri, Rigathi Gachagua, the proposed deputy president for the current team was arrested. What did we see? We saw people saying, "Oh, I've been arrested because I'm supporting deputy president."
But they are innocent until they are proven guilty. Even if it's not about
we are not questioning their innocence.
Yes.
We are not even saying they are guilty. We are then saying that your statement is affecting the performance of other institutions.
Okay.
Because when you say that, people will still start perceiving the judiciary and the DPP as persons who are out in pursuit for ulterior motives.
Okay.
And then you subsume their functions.
All right.
Linda, when it comes to offshore papers, Njiru says he has no facts to talk about it. But when it comes to William Ruto, he has all the facts. I don't know where he gets the facts from. This is completely hypocrisy, and pays Njiru as a gun for hire. He has been hired to execute a particular narrative. That's why when it comes to...
You need to protect me. You need to protect my integrity and my reputation.
Talking about those who have hired him, he has no facts. And you wonder whether this getting facts is dependent on who
you need to protect me
you are supporting or not.
Anyway, I'll accord you the chance to protect yourself.
Anyway, that is how it is. And this shows tells you that Kenyans should not believe what comes out of Njiru. But
is it so?
Every reason, yes, because whatever comes, whatever he's saying
noble
is skewed.
Arguments for that matter.
Is skewed. Let me tell you, credible papers have reported.
Credible papers?
Yes, not gutter press.
Okay.
Mainstream media have reported about these Pandora papers. The local Mwananchi Mamamboka is now aware of these Pandora papers. A lawyer who comes here and tells the nation that he doesn't have facts, but he's talking about all these horribles about Kamorer and Aror. something which the DPP has already pronounced himself on, and the matter is actively in court. I think that tells you the kind of a person that I'm debating with. I'm sorry. And next time I will not come to debate with such kind of a person. I owe Kenyans a civic duty to tell Kenyans the truth about everything that we are discussing.
It is for you to.
We've been discussing newspapers.
But I agree. It's
so
for you to come in and
why
counter that.
will we be selective when it comes to discussing certain topics? When we came here, we are discussing about Uhuru talks. We never say that we don't have facts. The facts were here, and we are debating about the facts that are here.
I may not have read. I may not have read the paper, and you cannot accuse me for having not read the paper. That's why I'm saying I'm oblivious of the facts.
Gentlemen, all right. So, do we take a break or we continue?
No, we continue because there's a
we continue. Yes, we continue. All right. What of what?
There's an issue that has been going around, and I don't want to set the agenda. About the Mount Kenya Foundation.
Yes.
Or are we coming to that after the break?
No. Let's proceed. Now that we're talking politics and we're here, and
we will debate as per her terms of reference.
But anyway, it is almost inevitable for us to run away. Like, we can't run away from the aspect of the mountain. I would have loved for us to touch on other stories of the papers, but I realized they just revolve around the politics of the day. Probably, let's ask this. What would it mean for the unity of these two, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy? It is you.
It's me or it's
It is
more?
you.
What it would mean?
For us to get that, which appears to be so elusive again.
It would mean that some people must first of all come out and confess that they were wrong from ab initio, from the beginning. It means that if there is to be any unity of that nature, there must be truthfulness, and people must be genuine and honest with the process. It means they have to disown all what they have said previously as against this government. Not as Uhuru Kenyatta as an individual, because Uhuru Kenyatta as an individual, I think as a person, he has no difference with his deputy as a person.
Okay.
But when it comes to the issues of running government, I think that is where the rubber meets the road. So it means that he has to recall all those people who have been sabotaging government and put the government back to the road as it was in 2017. But now there's a lot of water that has passed under the bridge. How, because of his saboteur, how shall we be able to redeem our 2017 manifesto?
Yeah.
So that is why I'm saying it's actually a dream pipe to think that there can be unity at this particular time. And then the reason is, why does somebody need unity at this particular time? If somebody felt that I'm mature enough, I have come of age, I can go to the mountain alone, I can do this alone. Why does somebody...
This has not been pushed by one individual. Let's acknowledge that. This has come out from the clergies, from the people of Kenya who felt
it has been pushed by the church.
Okay.
And we know who owns and who has captured the church through the numerous harambes that one has been doing. So it is only the church is doing it on his behalf. They are holding his brief. So as it may appear as if he's not the one who is always behind the whole aspects. He's the one who has owned the church. He's the one who has said that he's more Christian than other Christians. He's the one who has monopolized God in this country.
Of what interest would he have?
First, Linda, I want to be very clear. I want to apologize to the church on behalf of this show that there is nobody who can capture the church. The church is led by the Holy Spirit to preach the word of God. God speaks through the country, through the church. And I apologize on behalf of my friend Njiru.
Because, I mean, Anthony Muheria, bishops of that nature.
There is nobody who has captured the church. When we listen to the church, that is the voice of God. That said, the second thing, I think, as spectators in this reconciliation talks spearheaded by the church, we should allow the church, the head of state, and the deputy president give this process a chance unconditionally. Coming forward to say, for the president to reconcile with the DP must confess about what? One thing don't know, the differences that these two are facing. They are the ones who knows what divided them. They are the ones who knows what made them begin to wear different ties from what Kenyans we've been seeing them together. So, as a member of parliament and as a responsible citizen of this country, I will give the church an opportunity to reconcile the two unconditionally, without any conditions, because I'm a believer that God speaks through a country, through the church. And when whatever they are saying, we do not just see them as human beings saying the two should reconcile, but we should at least see that this is the voice of God.
If we had conditions, I
Yes.
doubt we would be having the 2018 handshake today.
Even this
the
call
conditions that you speak about, honestly.
this call by the church is mischievous.
Okay, why do you?
It is mischievous because look at the events of the last 2 or 3 weeks. When the church realized that they have been captured by the political class, they started saying, guys, you'll not speak politics in my church. They started giving them conditions that you cannot speak politics. Why now? And that was not there in the last 3 or 4 years when the current team, Assault Brigade, was giving them their money. Why now, when we are almost ending the term, that the church has realized there is disunity between the president and his deputy president? For whose benefit is it? Will it not be for the benefit of William Ruto? And therefore, that's why I'm questioning the intention and the mischief of the church. And then I'm saying the church is holding brief for William Ruto, and I have no apologies to make for whatsoever purposes, and I'll stick to my words, and I'll answer before God when God puts me to question.
Well,
So for one reason, Linda, the church has failed this country massively and miserably. The church has watched over its congregation stealing government money and receiving that money as offerings, as harambic donations. The church has not questioned where that money is coming from. When we ask the church to ask the question, they are saying, oh, when you bring the money, it's not our business to know where it's coming from. We cleanse it through the process of the prayers.
Wakili, the laws that we have,
Yes.
in the land, and the procedures that we have of dealing with corruption, and money that has been stolen, have not been able to clearly
address
this. What makes you think the church
system has failed,
will have the capability to do the same?
The church, as a moral judge, has the responsibility of addressing our immorality and our ineptness and our inadequacies.
And the church should treat this
as
with fairness.
As a moral judge, it has that responsibility.
Yes.
It ought to ask, amen, you receive a salary of 1.8 or 1 point something or even 2 million.
And you run businesses here
in a month. In a month. How are you able to generate all these resources? Now, if assuming that he ran businesses, we know his chicken business generates 1.5 million every day. That is equivalent to about 45 million. And how much Arambis was he doing in a week? It was way beyond this 45 million that his chicken farm generates in a month. So there is good question of the church to ask, and to ask people to scrutinize its morals. If you look at the book of Timothy, 1 Timothy, I think chapter 2, when Paul was addressing young Timothy and was commissioning him to go and preach the gospel, he told Timothy, you must be a letter that is legible by everybody. Your conduct, your deeds must be able to speak Christ in you. So if Timothy was a plunderer, if Timothy was a thief, if Timothy was a person of bad moral and bad character, he would not have been commissioned, and Paul would not have told him, become a letter that is legible. So what is that saying? That Paul epistles is trying to show us that you cannot be commissioned to do God's work if you have some questionable backgrounds. And then it means the persons who are moral judges must be able to scrutinize the background of an individual.
How possible is that?
I am not comfortable discussing the church in his perspective. I am a product of prayer. I'm a product of the church. I recognize the role that the church plays in this country. The church plays a pivotal role in this country. We are all surviving because of the prayers that we receive from the church. And I want to say this for once. Please, let our competitors leave the church out of politics. We are the ones who are competing with them for various seats. They should leave the church out of this. The church is not a political party. The church is not running to be president of the Republic of Kenya. All the church is doing is to pray for this country. And for once, let us respect the church and the role that the church plays in this country. And I'll be happy and willing to engage Njiru on matters politics, on matters bottom-up economics. I defend bottom-up economics. Let him defend his trickle-down economy. Let us discuss about Mount Kenya Foundation, the role in politics of this country.
Yes.
But we should not sink too low as a country to begin to say that the church has been captured by one individual. There is nobody who can capture the church. And we must respect the voice of bishops. Even if we don't agree with them, we have to respect them.
All right, we wait to see. Ruto pours out heart to church on Uhuru fallout. We can only wait to see whether President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to soften his heart towards this. Western Icon is watching you, Mheshimiwa. It says, now that you said you focused much on the people of Kimilili, one question he has for you is, mbona sisi kama wasanii umetutenga ama ulitutenga, yet during your campaign ulisema utaweka maswali yetu au maswala yetu kibao mbele. Do you agree that umewatenga, or there are some few who benefited and maybe he's not?
In the whole country, Kimilili constituency is among the very few constituencies that we put aside CDF funds to be able to put up a music recording studio. It is complete. In this financial year, we have put aside funds to buy the equipment, and then the studio will be functioning, will be free of charge. It will be run by the artists themselves. So I think he may not be aware, but that is the fact. If he goes to Kimilili now and he visits the place between the CDF offices and the sub-county director of education offices, whatever we are putting there, that complex is going to be a library on the one side, an ICT on the other side, and at the back side of it, we have a music recording studio, something which I know is going to benefit the artists, because they have been impoverished by this, by producers, by people masquerading as producers. They fleece them of their money. Okay. So yes, I have their interest at my heart. Western
Icon, I hope you have that. You can check it out. Sana Edwin says, tell Mheshimiwa that church and politics are inseparable.
May I just say something before he says that?
Yes.
Because that's a good question. You see, what William said yesterday is that he wants the church to spearhead the issues of legislation, of matters that will make sure that we have smooth sale of 2022 elections. How will the bishop spearhead that? Are they members of parliament? He says among his group, he has 150 members of parliament. Yeah. Whom should he be speaking to? Should he not be speaking to these members of parliament to spearhead this legislation? Yeah. That's why I'm saying, when you see William on the other hand speaking the way he's speaking, and then you see the church trying to initiate and engineer these negotiations, like you'll then be able to know the issues that William is raising are actually geared towards the church, because the church is holding his brief.
But is it not necessary anyway that these gentlemen, have a conversation? Look at the animosity that is breeding right here, and we're headed to 2022. And as much as there could be some things that need to be raised, yes, I think of importance would be the aspect of peace and unity.
The aspects of peace and unity, that is what the BBI was targeting. That is what William...
now that we don't have the BBI, we need to forge forward. Anyway.
You see, even those guys, when the BBI fell, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his brother Raila Odinga, they have been left holding the mantle of peace and unity for this country. Yeah. If you look at Baba's rallying call, it's about the question of unity in this country. So it is only those who do not believe in unity, and it is surprisingly so that it's not their first attempt not to do so. They have the history of 1991, 1992, YK 92. We have other histories, we don't want to mention them. The archives can bear as evidence. Yeah. History bears evidence that there are some guys in this country who do not believe in the rallying call for peace. And so when they see guys, and because why Linda? Because they thrive in those crises. So when they see Baba and President Uhuru calling for unity of this country, they have to decide themselves. Who doesn't love peace? It's only those guys. Anyway.
All right. Muhesh, before we talk of the Mount Kenya Foundation.
I will read a verse for you here, Ephesians 6:12. Okay. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world." While I recognize that we have some people who are led by the Spirit of God, We have others who are led by the spirits, by other spirits, powers of darkness. You've seen some people coming out to confess that they believe in sorcerers, they believe in witchcraft, they believe in African medicine. And I'm sorry, maybe I don't know which faith does Njiru confess for me to continue doing this.
You're the moral
but
judge.
with me, I confess Christianity, Jesus Christ is a Savior, and there are some things that I will weigh against before I say some things that are against the church. So, and again, I want to say this. There are things that I can discuss about the church, others I cannot, because I understand what God can do to everybody. And I also understand that there are different gods. So not unless I am aware which faith you confess. You know, we have some who don't believe in God. We have others who believe in the different, but me, I believe in God, the Almighty, God the Father.
Okay.
So unless Njiru becomes clear, I'm not comfortable discussing the church in the perspective that he has taken. But I have got every belief that the far this country has come from is because of the church. The blessings that we get from the heavens as a people is because of the church. As politicians, we can stop from praying, but the church will never stop to pray for Kenyans.
Yeah. There you go. And
You
I
know,
guess we close it at that. Yes.
You know, that's the
briefly
current,
as we close.
The current mantra is about portraying any other person as an unchristian, an unbeliever, a person who does not know God. That's the current mantra. That is why you'll see everybody every day, the first tweet is about the gospel.
Yeah.
But even as it tweets about the gospel speaks about justice. There are guys in this country who are crying out for justice. And that is why you saw the Mount Kenya Foundation raising up. And the first issue that was raised by Honorable Nyokabi, the Commissioner for Gender, he said that we want the question of the respect of title. And that is what we are saying. We are saying since 1992 to date, there are some guys in a particular region of this country, and most especially, and I'll mention from Rift Valley, who have suffered serious infringement of their right to ownership of property. So we are then saying that we are going to trust anybody who will first of all say, yes, when I become president, I'll uphold the property's right under Article 40. I will make sure that I'll guarantee the protection of those rights. And I'm going to restore the property rights that have progressively been lost in the previous regimes. In Moi's regime, people from Mount Kenya lost their property rights. In Kibaki's regime, people from Mount Kenya lost their property rights. Let William Ruto announce that he's going to restore the property rights that have been lost. Let Baba announce he's going to restore the property rights that have been lost. Let anybody else who is vying for presidency announce that he's going to, one, protect the property rights, two, restore the property rights that have been lost. That is what justice is called. Justice is not just quoting the government, the Bible.
Hold it right there. Let's not advance that one a little bit further. I know you want us to advance on the...
Not really. I'll look at it different. The race is open for those who care to run for presidency.
Yeah.
The horses are bolted out of their rack, they're now out there. We have developed a manifesto that we are going to sell it to the Kenyans, including Mount Kenya. Let Baba and his team also craft their manifesto so that they can go out and sell. It is on the basis of which manifesto will sell that will determine who ultimately wins. I will support William Ruto, not because I know William Ruto is a saint, but the facts about whether he's a saint or a sinner, that one I will leave it to God himself, because the Bible says, "Let no one be judged," and it goes further to say, everyone has sinned. So if you think that while walking on this world, you are a saint, you are a clean, you don't have any sin, that is your own journey to ponder about. But we should not begin to castigate people for what they stand. If you do not like the way William Ruto conducts himself, conduct yourself in a manner that you will be happy about. Tell your Baba to conduct himself in a manner that you will be happy about. If William is attending churches and giving offerings every Sunday and you think that is stolen money, tell Baba to keep his money that he has gotten through his rightful means.
You
know, this is the gospel that we should go out there to preach.
All right.
Linda, I agree with that gospel.
Yes.
It's a gospel that is quite clear. It is in black and white. But tell Ruto to preach the gospel of restoring the property rights that have progressively been lost. For example, in 2007, people lost serious political rights, serious property rights in Rift Valley. Ask him, in his manifesto, does he have a place where it says that he's going to restore those political, those property rights? In his manifesto, does it say? Because you cannot drive an economy in utopia or in the air. The economy must be premised on the basic principles of production. And the basic principle of production is land. And that is what we are saying was actually lost. So, where will the Mama Mboga plant his mbogas for them to land in Mudhurwa or in whichever market? He must be guaranteed that his property rights will be protected.
Linda.
And restored those that are lost. That is a bare minimum. That is a bare minimum that we want.
We have been very categorical about peace in this country, about one Kenya and one people. We have been against tribal hate and ethnicity. William Ruto has been on the forefront, talking about respect for each and every person, including what his or her owns. They are on record parading Maina Njenga, formerly of Mungiki. They have been on record condoning the former member of parliament for Molo, spewing ethnic hate against communities in this country. So in terms of who is not matched with the violence, your guess is as good as mine. Right. But from where we stand, we've been very clear that we need one country, that we need a coalition of all Kenyans and not a coalition of a few tribal
that I agree.
Advancing the narrative of ethnic hate, ethnic division, and ethnic balkanization.
Linda, that I agree. But it cannot be ethnicity, it cannot be balkanization, it cannot be animosity when we say that we want the property rights that were lost in 2007 restored.
TJRC, this reports that we have.
That is what we want William Ruto to come and announce and say, I am going to implement the TJRC.
It is one thing to say it is one. Why should knock him out very early? Why don't you trust that he would come in and probably look into all that? He doesn't have to. I mean, how many people have said they're going to?
You become a Christian by proclaiming that I'm a Christian, right? And so we associate you with those people who are Christians by pronouncement. So in the event that you fail to pronounce that you are going to restore the property rights, and the property rights is the backbone of any development for any country. And that is why it's a fundamental freedom and right under the Bill of Rights in the Constitution and Article 40. Then we cannot just say and leave it to the whims, wishes, and the aspiration of that person when he becomes president. You know, if he never conducted himself in a manner that he can protect when he's a deputy president, how is he going to protect when he becomes president?
It is common knowledge that in 2007-2008 we had electoral violence that led to 6 people being tried at The Hague. The president and his deputy were part of the people that were tried at The Hague. Everybody understands what this country went through. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy met in Naivasha and signed the peace accord, and they said, never will this country lose their citizens because of politics. Never shall we have a situation where one person goes to destroy the people's properties because of politics. And anybody who cares to understand where we have come from as a country, he will be not keen to begin to open that Pandora box and then begin to talk about what happened in 07-08. Those who are talking about it, they are talking about it wearing political lens, covering it with ethnic hate, and ethnic balkanization. They want to remind one community that, look, this community banned our properties, and are they planning for that community to revenge or not? We should not take that direction. And as a country, from where I sit, in my own individual capacity, Linda, I'll tell you for free, I will never be part of any arrangements, of any discussions that will take this
trigger
country
that
back
confirmation.
to where we were.
Linda, that is not our objective. That's not our objective. The objective is to uphold the Constitution. It is the Constitution that has created Article 40. We're only saying, if you are a presidential candidate, please come out and say that you are going to uphold Article 40. Unless you want to say that Article 40 will not be binding upon him when he becomes president. Listen, Linda, you see, in the Constitution, we speak about historical injustice. Historical injustice are all those things that have happened previously or previous to 2010.
Realistically speaking, can we get to the core of it? Can we be able to address all these injustices, to the,
there are some that can be addressed, there are others that cannot be addressed.
And therefore the aspect of saying let's redempt, let's overlook what happened.
Those cannot be addressed, Linda. Okay. People should then have a position of talking about it and free to discuss about them without being labeled a political, an ethnic mobilizer, without being labeled a person who is a hater. We should be able to discuss about it because there are people who lost.
Yes.
In William Ruto's administration, all organs of government will be allowed to function as per the Constitution. In terms of going through the various reports, the various investigations that have been carried out by commissions formed, institutions will function in line with their mandate. There will be no interference. And some of the things which are
that's laughable.
Some of the things which my good friend Njiru is talking about will be addressed at that time. But we believe in a situation where when the country has healed, we move forward.
Gentlemen, Gilbert Onyango is here, says, let's remind ourselves of what played out in Kiambaa Church, and yet they are claiming to be more Christians than others. Property rights were breached, so to speak.
It's a pertinent issue.
Linda.
Now, this is Ras G. Let the Ndungu land reports be made public if there is any sincerity on this debate.
Linda.
Gentlemen, we're not even going to talk about the Mount Kenya Foundation. Yes.
If Njiru is honest about what he's talking about, he should also be telling the country that Raila Amolo Odinga should denounce the oath that he took in Uhuru Park, putting himself as the people's president.
But that was an illegitimate oath.
Let me finish. And that he should also apologize on behalf of thousands of his supporters who lost properties, hundreds of his supporters who lost their lives, including baby Pendo, who was killed by a bullet in Embakasi.
By the regime.
Let me tell you.
It is not Raila who killed. It is your regime that fired the shot.
That's what we are talking about. But so if we want Kenyans to take us seriously about what we are discussing, we should not be skewed in our discussion that when it comes to a particular name, then
I have told Raila Odinga to declare that he's going to support Article 40.
And
I have told William Ruto to declare.
Yes.
Let him, and actually not just declaring, even declaring that they are going to restore the property rights that have been lost.
There are some of very good points you've made, including the property rights. I have been taking notes, and I can tell you for free that in our next discussion about these things, I am going to table them on our behalf. Ours is a movement, is a coalition of Kenyans that we don't live with anybody.
Yes.
Our vehicle has brakes, and it will stop in every bus stop, including where you are, so that we can bring you on board.
Yes.
And try to abreast you on some of the actions which we are going to take. Putting in consideration some of the issues that we've been raising here.
I'm comfortable.
No.
We are political.
I've already gotten up some of your good points we've been talking about.
Yes.
And when I go to my office, I will be able to take them to the table of William Ruto. And believe me, they will be part of our discourse.
Please tell William Ruto to also tell us, because property rights includes even people to worship. When shall we restore the Kiambaa Church? Those are issues we are talking about.
Okay.
When shall we restore? What is the period time for restoring Kiambaa Church? What is the period for restoring the people who lost their lands? They were actually relocated to places like Solio Lanch. All those guys who are relocated.
Now we have to close. We have to close.
Was William Ruto running for president at that time?
No, he was not running, but
the person responsible for chaos from 07, 08 is Raila Amolo Odinga and Emilio Mwai Kibaki. These are the two people who are competing against each other.
Linda, I agree. But
and there are legal procedures to
Kiambaa Church happened in his constituency when he was a member of parliament.
But there were
For the
legal
first
procedures
time.
to that.
I agree.
Linda,
But not because
for
he's
the
become-
first time, I have met a lawyer who leaves his knowledge about law outside the studio, and when he comes
We're
here,
discussing politics.
Amamamboga thinks
We're
much more
discussing
better
All right,
We're
hold it,
discussing
hold it.
than
Ndegwa
my
Njiru,
friend.
Ndegwa
I take that
Njiru.
as a compliment.
Constitutional lawyer Ndegwa Njiru, thank you so much. Honorable Didmus Barasa, Member of Parliament Kimilili. We do not discuss the Mount Kenya Foundation, but we hope to get some time to discuss
I've loved
the same.
debating Mheshimiwa. He's a
Thank
good
you.
debater.
I hope